Alright guys, let's come again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Things are getting hectic in this Rostermania period with a major new rumour emerging as to what the Los Angeles Thieves are cooking up going into 2026, trying to take down the team that just won back-to-back tournament to the World Championship and the World Cup shortly after that. Over the last few days, it has emerged to become pretty clear that Thieves might well be looking to move on from Ghosty. Does the team want that? The players maybe not. Does the ownership want that? Seemingly yes. And as of today, we are hearing rumours that Cellium has received an offer from the Los Angeles Thieves, far from finalised as it stands, because Thieves are not the only horse in this race. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's begin here. OpTic won the World Championship and the World Cup, and these are just some of the numbers from that World Cup comparing last year to this year of these esports on the screen. Call of Duty actually had the biggest growth in viewership year on year, which probably shouldn't come as too much of a surprise given that OpTic are a rather important part of this esport if you guys haven't figured that out already. And we know that last year was not a great event for OpTic. It was actually still a top 4 finish for OpTic last time, but in terms of peak viewership, last year Call of Duty had 140k. This year it was more like 270 across the different co-streams and platforms. So pretty good result, all things considered, I would say. And yeah, COD isn't going anywhere from the Esports World Cup, I'm sure, in the coming years, and it's probably for, well, at least as it stands, with us not having as many tournaments as we might like in the COD scene, probably a necessary addition. Now, wanted to go through some Lineman cards. Yes, they're Lineman cards, taken with a pinch of salt, but I know that they're kind of pretty, so we'd look through them. And it's interesting to see, especially the purple numbers, see where players like HyDra stood in terms of kills per 10 and kills per 10 in hardpoint and control. Actually, he was purple, basically best in his role in the league overall. Not actually quite the case on LAN this year, maybe hurt by a couple of difficult performances to end out the season, at least from his team. These were Insights cards. It is a big question this year. Will Insights stay with CleanX again? There were big questions after the World Championship when Beans was dropped. They brought in aBeZy instead and put CleanX as the flex. Whether that was a good idea, I don't expect CleanX to stay on a flex and that to be an AR duo all of a sudden. Whether they stay together, I think depends on a few factors. I could definitely see CleanX having some interest from FaZe maybe if they're doing a rebuild over there. We're pretty sure that Toronto are just going to build around JoeDeceives. They might want aBeZy per sources. Is it impossible that Insight and CleanX again end up on Toronto? No, I think it's actually a pretty decent chance, but I would also say it's far from a guarantee. This is JoeDeceives' card. His actual control, ticks per rounds, his, let's say, objective work in that game mode was stellar. He had on LAN and overall purple in that category, and in hardpoint this year was just super impressive, right? Like his online hardpoint KD being a 1.06, on LAN that was a 1.2 almost, right? Real good stuff from JoeDeceives this year. He had loads of impactful maps. This is kind of wild, actually. Obviously, Kenny's card was drastically hurt by the horrific online stint in the Major 2 qualifiers for OpTic. But actually, on LAN, Kenny's numbers, actually pretty damn good. He had an 87 card on LAN. Is this going to do much repair to his reputation that took some damage this season, certainly in the fans' eyes? Probably not really, but I think among the pros, Kenny still isn't going to be going anywhere as far as I would well imagine. And yeah, I expect him to probably team with Drazah again, based on the rumours over the last couple of days. Where that might be the case is a big question mark. These were Kismet's cards, pretty consistent LAN to online, stuff like that. It was the case, there was a talk about Kismet being really good at search online, not so much on LAN. Maybe there's some similar trends there this year as well, but maybe not quite as pronounced. Obviously, he was on a difficult team, having a difficult time of things. This was Kremp's card, kind of interesting, right? Because online, search and destroy kills per round, he was purple in the league. But on LAN, that fell away rather drastically. But I still think Kremp was, you know, I think the 83 overall this year probably does Kremp a decent amount of justice given the way that he played. These were Lucky's cards. Of course, he had his time on Miami this year, and then it came to an end when they ended up signing Super. These were Lunarz cards, just to go through some of the ones that, well, Lineman was putting out there. These were Max cards, who had his time on Cloud9, came back at the end of the year, and did a rather stellar job at the World Cup. And these are Mercules cards, so the prettiest that we've seen so far. 95 online, 94 on LAN for a 96 overall. Now, remarkably enough, he played 4 online matches this season, right? How crazy is that? Because in some respects, he seems like he played more than half the year, because out of the 6 tournaments, he played 4 of them. He played at Major 3, he played the Major 4 qualifiers and Major 4 and Champs and the World Cup. So on LAN, he played 18 matches, which is plenty, really, compared to lots of the other teams in the league who didn't make it deep in tournaments. But he only played 4 games online, and in those 4, he was purple damage per round in search and control, and best in kills and in KT and control. So pretty crazy stuff, and he pretty much maintained that. I mean, he was purple overall on the season. Obviously not the biggest records, but yeah, what a performance from this kid. Completely turned OpTic season around, and it should be no surprise to anyone that they aren't going to be going anywhere for the upcoming season. That team will stay the same, along with who else? Possibly no one. I think the answer currently is probably no one else will stick it out. We know that on Miami, there's a couple of players that are available. Real, free agent. Metals, free agent. FaZe are blowing it up. Just to quickly note, a restricted free agent is somebody who is still under contract. So if you want to go and get them, you need to pay a buyout. The team, the player may announce, hey, I'm able to go, the team is kicking me out, but I'm still under a contractual relationship, and as a result, if you want me, there's going to have to be some sort of a negotiation. Most of the players are either locked in under contract or they are potentially free. So the players that are listed here are, well, the white is basically they are under contract and they are likely to stay, but that's not necessarily guaranteed in any case. But many of the players on G2 are gone, and presumably it doesn't, mean that much. Spart, is he going to stay on Cloud9? If I'm OpTic and I want Estriel, or if I'm Falcons, let's say, and I want Estriel, can I go and get him? Yeah, sure I can, if I want to put the money up. So Falcons have Exon and Pred. Arcetes is kind of rumoured to probably be gone. I wouldn't expect him to stay. CleanX and Insight are certainly rumoured along the same lines. But these are what the teams look like as it stands. But over the last couple of days, things have got real interesting when it comes to Thieves. Because initially the rumour was Thieves aren't going to make a change. They're going to run it back, which to me was a bit of a surprise. I expected them to look to do something after the World Cup was over, but according to sources, the team itself, the players on the team, were keen to stay together. But management, whoever management are, had other ideas. Now, it's very interesting when teams disagree in this way, because you want to keep your players happy is, number one. But as we know, Shotzzy didn't want to drop Skies for Mercules. But is he happy now? Right? Like, was he happier once Mercules is in the team and their scrims are going really well? Yes. And if you're Nadeshot, if you're 100 Thieves, if you're LA Thieves, management, whatever, you're paying people like Shane, people like Sender, whoever is calling the shots over there. They are paid to coach the team, but also to make the decisions. And if they think that there's a certain decision that will benefit the team, rather than allowing the team to stay the same or get complacent or whatever, then they are empowered to make those type of calls. Now, we saw this tweet. Nastie was tweeting something. Ghosty was tweeting something else in the replies. And then we started to get talks about, well, who are the interested parties in place of Ghosty? Could it be Abuzah? In my eyes, I'm not sure that's a clear upgrade at all. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a downgrade, but, in my eyes, if you're going to drop Ghosty for Abuzah, I don't see that particularly leveling up their team unless they just feel like they need some sort of a reset. In my eyes, if they wanted to upgrade from Ghosty, there are really 2 options they could go and get, one of which would be Drazah, but we know the history there with Scrap. That's probably not going to go away anytime soon. And we think Drazah wants to team with Kenny as well. The other option from AR perspectives, and not to say Abuzah is a bad option, but like the other option, of course, is Cellium. And according to Ronnie, over the last few minutes, really, well, by the time you guys are watching this, probably an hour and a half or so ago, LA Thieves make offer to Cellium. So this is a big deal. Cellium, free agent, his contract is over, totally available on the market to go and get him. We're 99% sure that he's not going to go back to FaZe. So, where does that leave the top teams and the top contenders? This is what Ronnie has to say in the article. We'll get to that in a second. According to multiple sources, the LA Thieves have made a formal offer to MacArthur, Cellium, Javel, aiming to bring the superstar AR onto their roster for the upcoming season. This would mark one of the largest acquisitions of the offseason. Now, this is very interesting because as he goes on to say, they are not alone in their pursuit of Cellium, though, as the Vegas Falcons have also thrown their hat into the ring for the main AR. The move is not signed nor finalised, so the situation remains fluid going into the weekend. This would see Ghosty be replaced on the roster, though the team has wanted to stick as a unit going into 2026. If the deal goes through, it would further elevate the Thieves. So this is a fascinating development. it would leave the team as follows: Cell, Scrap, HyDra, and Envoy. Now, that is quite the team. It was already quite the team, but adding Cellium is undoubtedly a lot of gun skill and a lot of firepower added to that roster. I rate Ghosty pretty highly, but if you are going to say, well, we didn't get the results we wanted, we want to make a change, and you want to upgrade in the AR position, you know, Cellium is the man probably to get. Now, does it have risk? Does it have concerns? Yeah, and there's probably a reason why the players don't necessarily want to do this. That's the current debate as to whether the players are saying, you know, not so sure about this, we want to keep Ghosty, and the management is saying, well, look, we can go and get Cellium on a free, we're going to do it, suck it up, basically. We think this is what we need to do to level up even further, and I totally get that logic, but we know that Cellium's playstyle is a bit questionable at times, and so is his comms, right? Like, there's an argument that HyDra has better comms, better English than Cellium does a lot of the time. So that is something they will have to work on, and something that FaZe probably didn't work on as much as they needed to in the recent couple of seasons. But still, I mean, a Cell Scrap AR duo, what I will say is, it's probably the ends of the Scrappy 99 overall rated cards, because there are not going to be too many kills going around on that team with Scrap and Cell on the ARs. It is going to put a lot of pressure on someone like Envoy, right? We'll talk about Ghosty here in a second, but Envoy is going to be the hill kitten, right? That's how it's going to be. Now, they will also make sure that Cellium plays his time in the hill, and they will, you know, maybe there's a feeling, and I do get this, to say, look, Cellium was playing in a certain way on FaZe for the last several years. It wasn't the best use of his talent and his ability. Sender might think, look, give me Cell, and I'll make him into the player that he should have been in terms of impact all along. And, you know, if I was a coach, I'd probably feel the same way. Like, look, give me the talent, and yeah, it might be flawed in certain regards, but, you know, we can make something work of this. So if I'm Thieves, I totally get it, right? And if you look at OpTic, they're so strong. Dashy Mercules, what an AR combo that turned out to be. You might think that you need to do this, right? And this would be a super team. I mean, like, whether you think the Thieves team before was a super team or not, in terms of talent, like, and people will say, oh, you got to get rid of Envoy and bring in aBeZy or something, right? And I don't know, like, I don't really see that as being necessary. I think you need someone to play the Doug Martin role. And even I think their team this most recent season was still really, really good. But when it mattered, it wasn't. And that has what has seemingly made the difference at this point. But as you guys can tell, Ghosty's here in the replies, dropping the, the monocle emoji, kind of being like, are you sure about that or whatever? So I don't know if that's what Ghosty's trying to imply. Either Ghosty has just found out about this through Twitter, which is not that unlikely, I suppose. Or the other option is whether Ghosty's been like, you know, you're so sure about that. So Ronnie is saying that there's an offer made. Is he saying that Cellium's definitely joining? No, not necessarily. He's also saying that the team maybe wants to keep Ghosty together. So it's a real interesting development here when Ghosty might be sitting there thinking, well, damn, I've talked to Scrap and he doesn't want to drop me. So, you know, let's see about that one. It's a real interesting development. The other thing that's, of course, worth noting about this is the Falcons piece, because as Ronnie said in the article, Falcons are also interested. And so are we going to get some sort of a bidding war? Thieves have given Cellium an offer. They've said, okay, this is what we can pay. Now, they don't have to buy him out of a contract. So they can say, all right, here's our offer for salary. And Cell, if he's smart, will call up Clay and be like, okay, what can you offer me in terms of salary? And then Cell can go back to Nadeshot and say, hey, you know, Falcons offered me this. Can you bump it up a bit and I'll come play with you guys? You know, that's how this probably will be done. And it means that more than likely, it might take a fair bit of time to actually get a resolution here. So fascinated to hear your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. What does all this mean? What happens next? What do Falcons do if they don't get Cellium, or even if they do? What do FaZe do, right? Like, if Cellium's out of the picture, aBeZy's an RFA, Drazah's going off the team with Kenny, so what happens next? Who does Simp get alongside him? Does Ghosty come in there? Would Thieves miss the lack of comms that Ghosty evidently has brought to every team that he's been a part of? Yeah, I think they would. Would it be a sacrifice worth making? Possibly, right? So, yeah, this is real interesting. Things have taken a big turn this evening. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Just one final thing. Couple of days left to vote in the Breaking Point Awards for 2025. We're going to be doing the award show a week tomorrow. So if you guys want to vote in that, last year Dashy won Best Player of the Year. This year there are options for you guys to vote for on the website. So hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.